Abubeidul Lansa, and this is the AM show. Thank you so much for staying with us. This morning, we've been joined by the P.R.O of the Ministry of Education, Kwesi Kwarteng. There's a lot of issues to discuss in the sector, but let's start off with what may be the big one. 8 lives lost on the Volta Lake. There have been concerns about why these young pupils didn't have life jackets. But then again, there's the bigger question about why do they have to cross a lake to access education? Can't we give them the education on their islands? Why is it so difficult to do this? Well, Kwesi Kwarteng is here to give us those answers. Mr. Kwarteng, good morning to you.
Good morning, Venice. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm not too fine. I mean, we've lost our students. It's a very sad situation. Nobody must go through this, especially in our attempt to secure education, which happens to be a basic right. Something which is provided for in our constitution that is supposed to be that basic, that we do not have to record such an incident.
What have you learned from your preliminary investigations into the matter? What exactly happened? We are told that there are supposed to be life jackets available for these children in hard-to-reach areas if they have to cross water bodies to school. What are you learning from this particular incident?
I mean, first of all, let me express on behalf of the Ministry of Education our condolences to the family and to the entire Bono East region.
Bono region.
Yeah. Of course, investigation is ongoing, but I mean, the prelims that we have is that if we look at the district, there's about 81 schools within the district. Within these 81 schools, I think about 21 of them are junior high schools, so the remaining are the primary schools that, I mean, this case really attend. So they find themselves in those islands, I mean, within the district. And within the island, about 10 of the schools are there. But I think the challenge is that the particular town that these kids are from, we don't have a school there. Okay. Of course, if you look at GES, their structure in putting out the school, usually they check the population of the community and then sometimes the adjoining communities to see if they can feed the school in terms one is established. I think the reports that we have, the larger challenge has to do with the fact that the surrounding schools, mostly when you post teachers there, a lot of them are unable to take their appointments because a lot of them prefer to stay in the bigger towns.
Yeah, because of the conditions in the smaller communities. Exactly. It's difficult to live there. Yeah, difficult to teach there.
Yes, it's true, and I agree with you. Some of them have to commute about 2 hours to the places, especially before they reach these 10 schools within the island. And so you have teachers being posted there most times after a year or two. Some of them even vacate their posts, which is a very difficult challenge. So, unfortunately, just last 2 days, this case, in an attempt to seek education, it's difficult for me.
It's a really difficult subject to discuss. Also because when you see the picture of how these kids are lined up, and you ask yourself, what did they want? An education. Yeah, why didn't they have life jackets on the boat?
I like we indicated, there's just a preliminary investigations. I'm sure the full report will address all those concerns. But of course, the details that it highlights is that they were indeed going to school. It confirms that. It also confirms that there were about 20 of them who were in the boat. So it was even a philanthropist who felt that he wanted to just help. I mean, somebody who was just on the river wanted to just help with his boat. And unfortunately, we had that incident. Like I indicated, it's something that should not happen to any child. Unfortunately, it's happened. I mean, the first comment is to express our condolences to them. The Ghana Education Service, the regional and the district level, together with the political leadership there, are in touch with the community and the parents in trying to arrive at the bottom of whatever has happened, and of course, also sympathize with them. I believe that the full report will highlight, I mean, what really happened, and of course, what we ought to do. But generally, I mean, using the common sense approach, there ought to be life jackets for them. But of course, I mean, even if you look at the preliminary reports that came in, one of the recommendations is that GES is exploring if it could even cite schools, because now you realize that even though the community is about 850, there is a possibility that some of the adjoining communities could also feed the school if one is established. So
we hope that this will not be an isolated
incident, yeah.
case that you're going to treat, but you're going to use the opportunity to do a quick survey of all schools that find themselves on, or do a quick assessment of island communities and whether you have schools there and how we can mitigate some of these disturbing things. But let's move on to the next matter, which has to do with children having furniture to study on. Our features editor, Jojo Kobna, has produced 2 fantastic pieces so far on Ghana's Schools of Shame, where we highlight the conditions in the classrooms. There are no chairs, no tables. These children have to sit on the bare floor. Some of them have to lie on their bellies. Some of them have to bring their own chairs. Some of them have to squat. And you can imagine if you have 5 or 6 lessons every day and you have to squat to do that, how long can a child endure such, postures? And this government was one that said it was going to tackle this. In fact, we were very careful to highlight what Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia said in 2016 before the NPP won the elections to do his first term in office. Your minister speaks on a platform and wants to address this documentary that has been produced by Joy News. And here's what he says. He is ashamed about Ghana's schools of shame. One would have thought that he was ashamed about the situation and was then going to proceed to tell us what is being done about it. But no, he didn't do that. He rather said or questioned why we chose to tell the story of these kids. And many of you have seen the videos. You've seen these children for yourself, and I'm sure you're going to be seeing it on your screen once again. And what they have to endure every day. Mr. Kwarteng, your minister is asking us why we decided to tell the story of these vulnerable children, because he believes that he is making strides in the education sector.
You need to calm down.
No, I'm okay.
You need to calm down. We are here to address the issue.
Of course, but I need to explain so that the people understand what's happening.
I've never seen you so a bit aggressive like this.
No, it's troubling. It's very troubling. And please, my director would show the videos for you so that you can see. So just watch this. Just watch this. But before then, listen to the minister and then watch what we showed and make your own deductions. Then I'll take the reaction from Kwesi Kwarteng.
At the Ministry of Education, we believe that the better days of our nation, Ghana, is ahead of us and not behind us. Recently, I saw some TV programming. They were talking about Ghana's School of Shame. And I was ashamed. Because of all the great things happening in the country, we want to focus on the negative and get the world to know that there are negative things in Ghana. Can you look straight in the eye of these children and tell me they are coming from schools of shame? They are coming from schools of shame. These young men and women has a fierce determination and is palpable when you get close to them. They want to change the face of this country. What we couldn't do, they are going to do it. All that we need to do is to let them know that yes, there are challenges in the country, but we should shine a spotlight on these great things that we are doing. And if we can take a cue, we should rather do a program that highlights these young men and women and tell the world that Ghana is moving in spite of the challenges.
So, Mr. Minister, respectfully, if you care to know, the program you were speaking at, G-Step, is one that is supported by Joy News. We do tell the stories of great strides happening in our education sector. And if you're someone who watches Joy News, you know that when there are good stories to tell, we tell them. And Mr. Minister, respectfully, you cannot tell us that we should not tell the stories of these children because there are good things happening.
I mean, are you fighting the minister?
I cannot fight the minister.
I'm not sure. I mean,
so, Mr. Kwarteng, look at these children. I want you to look on the screen and see what is happening.
We've done
is this a school of fame?
No, we've done this.
Is this a school of fame?
No, I think you after showing, I'm sure you give me the opportunity to address.
You can speak. We are not playing the stories. We're just showing the pictures, so you can speak.
Okay, verify. I think I have always held the view that when you take the text out of the context, you'll be missing the essence of the conversation. Ultimately, why are you showing this video? You are showing this video, of course, to draw leadership attention, so that some way, somehow, there has to be some level of intervention, and then the challenge or the situation is addressed. I mean, this is not the first time you are showing this video. I have even had the opportunity to respond to it in a number of times. I believe that, to be fair to what the minister said, we don't have to take him out of context. And what is the context? The context is that the minister is essentially establishing a principle. The principle is that, well, as a country, I mean, if you look at the education sector, just like any other sector, we may not be at where we want to go, but definitely we are not at where we used to be. Essentially, that's what the minister is saying.
Shouldn't the minister then have taken the opportunity, because he clearly saw this video before going for that GSTEP program, if he wanted to address this matter, shouldn't he have taken the opportunity, for example, to give us an update on what has been done so far since this government took over in addressing this, in governing this country? Shouldn't he have taken the opportunity to tell us what the plan is to solve the children's problem, instead of questioning why we chose to tell the story?
I'm not sure it's about questioning why you chose to solve
No,
this.
did you hear him, Kwesi?
No, but
he said because instead of highlighting the good things that are coming, we chose to highlight
this is the only first
wrong
time
things
you
that are
brought me
happening
here and you asked me questions, but for the first time you allow me to speak. I've never seen that from you. That's why I initially said you should kindly come back.
I'm okay.
This is the only first time. In most of your interviews,
these are children.
Kwesi, in most of your interviews, you
I'll allow you to answer the question.
I'll allow you. I'm surprised.
Don't be surprised.
It looks like you've already formed a position.
No. I can't form a position.
So allow me to answer.
Because your minister directly attacked us for doing the story.
No.
So I'm asking
I'm
asking you,
surprised.
shouldn't he have taken the opportunity to tell us then what has been done and what is left to be done and how to achieve that?
I am surprised the interpretation you put on what the minister said from the Ministry of Education. It was shocking, against the backdrop that even yesterday, when we wanted to opportunity to at least speak into your program and then clear the misunderstanding, unfortunately, we were not even given the opportunity.
Which program was that?
I mean, yesterday News 90 was played. Even this morning, yesterday, I personally called about 4 of your producers with the hope of getting an opportunity to also at least.
But it's not why you're here this morning.
Yes, I mean, but we are having the opportunity. But I am building a case, so we have to take it from one step before we get to the other. But for me, what is most crucial is the principle that the minister has highlighted. The principle is that whether there are challenges or not, we as a country must also at least be proud of the little successes that we've chalked as a country. And what the minister is essentially saying that yes, the challenges are there. Indeed, if you want to look at the challenges within the education sector, we have always insisted. And this one is not even necessarily an isolated case, because, I mean, it is an undeniable fact that if you look at this country, we have about 5,000 schools under trees. I have explained the context of the schools under trees, that a lot of times you may have, let's say, philanthropists and NGO, which goes into a community, tries to have engagement with the community. Later, it then metamorphosizes or escalates into a school. GES goes in en masse, then transforms such a school.
Kwesi, you're not answering my question.
No, I am landing.
Should he not have taken this opportunity instead of going on the tangent he did?
When you ask a question, Benis, you allow me to answer. When I finish and my answer is not satisfactory, then you can then draw my attention.
You have made the point.
No, what I was saying in a response to your question, the point that I want to emphasize is that the minister has already been championing the interventions that he has been undertaking when it comes to basic education, especially when it comes to infrastructure. Again, the minister have also admitted the challenges within the education sector. A lot of these challenges, I mean, it's not like, it was born just yesterday or last 2 years ago. It's been systemic. It's been with us, even most of them even predates back before independence. Today, we are still having similar challenges. What the minister is saying that, yes, those challenges are there. Challenges in relation to access, challenges in relation to quality, challenges in relation to education having relevance on socio-economic transformation. But beyond these challenges, as a country, there have been some milestones that we've been able to achieve.
And haven't we told those stories?
No, but essentially, that's what the minister is saying, that when we are making a presentation about a certain story, it has to be balanced so that we do not just look into our faces and tell ourselves that as a country we failed. We've not failed as how maybe the impression is made to look. The minister is essentially saying that,
do you want us to listen to the minister again? It's a very short clip.
No, I think his point was clear. That's why I said that the minister even admitted that there were some level of challenges. And indeed, the education system is shrouded with challenges.
Is this a school of fame or shame?
No. So, again, it answers yesterday what your people tried to do. And again, the misunderstanding they had and the interpretation they placed on the minister's point that he made. The minister yesterday said that, yes, indeed, they are a school of shame. But you can't look into those guys. It was your own program. Those who have been able to manufacture and create innovative, equipment, and look into their face and also tell them that they are coming from a school of shame.
But that's not what we've done. You're putting a spin to the thing. No. Let's listen to the minister again, just for about 40 seconds.
You also don't get my explanation.
Let's listen to the minister again, and then we'll come back. We need to listen to the minister again. Let's listen to the minister again.
At the Ministry of Education, we believe that the better days of our nation, Ghana, is ahead of us and not behind us. Recently, I saw some TV programming. They were talking about Ghana's school of shame. And I was ashamed. Because of all the great things happening in the country, we want to focus on the negative and get the world to know that there are negative things in Ghana. Can you look straight in the eye of these children and tell me they are coming from schools of shame? They are coming from schools of fame. They're going to change the story of Ghana. These young men and women has a fierce determination, and it's palpable when you get close to them. They want to change the face of this country. What we couldn't do, they are going to do it. All that we need to do is to let them know that yes, there are challenges in the country, but we should shine a spotlight on these great things that we are doing. And if we can take a cue, we should rather do a program that highlights these young men and women and tell the world that Ghana is moving in spite of the challenges.
Saying there was not referring to the children in our feature, but the children who were sitting in front of him.
No, the minister essentially referred to two categories of people.
Okay.
That's why.
But does the minister know?
That's why he even made references that we couldn't tell our stories, but these are guys who are coming to do what we couldn't do as a
Does
people.
the minister know that G-Step is sponsored by Joy News?
Obviously.
Does the minister know? Does the minister know that on this platform here on Joy News, we focus on young people who are innovators,
yes,
young people who are doing great things?
Yes.
He knows.
Obviously.
But so why was he talking as though all we do here, just because we decided to tell the specific story of children in Pandai, the minister is sounding as though we've never said any good story. Anyway, you've made your response. Let's move on to other matters. I'll leave it for you. Do you have anything more to say? Because I want to leave it to the Ghanaian audience to make the deductions.
I feel that in as much as you are passionate about this whole point, we should not miss the thrust of the point that the minister was making. You get a minister who is very passionate about education, who have started reforming our education sector. In terms of infrastructure, everything, there has been some magnificent interventions.
Haven't you told those stories?
No, I am not saying that we have not told those stories. But the minister was essentially saying that as a country, regardless of our challenges, we should be proud of ourselves, also the many successes that we've achieved. Today, we are talking about 21st century STEM. ordinarily, I was expecting that would have been the first story. But
first story for who?
I mean, for this discussion, of course, I don't determine what to do. But
you're following your minister.
I'm not
you
following
you want to make editorial decisions for us.
No, if I follow my minister and is to the right direction, I'm not sure there's anything wrong with it.
All right, Kwesi.
Minister for Education, I'm rapping. Minister for Education essentially is making one point.
Okay.
And the principle is that, yes, there are challenges. Those challenges are being addressed head on. But equally, when there is an opportunity for us to escalate, for the whole world to know the significant successes that we've took as a country, I'm not sure we should renege on that. And that is the focus and the thrust of his point. It was not in any way to make any organization look bad. In any event, when you started your story of shame thing, of course, I was invited to respond to it. Okay. The Minister for Education has instructed the FPMU gentleman, Mr. Ni, to at least get to the school and provide some solutions to it. So yes, you, even as media, has been helping us to address some of the challenges within the education space. Just that we want to let everybody understand that when we try to paint a picture that everything is unwell, it is not necessarily so. There are also some. That picture? I mean, I leave it for listeners to, especially in a time where, I mean, you have situations where media is almost being weaponized against politically individuals, and
it's as though politicians choose what they want to see.
Not really.
Because, like I've reiterated it, Kwesi, let's move on. There are other matters to discuss.
Because to misconstrue what the minister said for us in the Ministry of Education was so unfair.
Who misconstrued him?
If you listen to what he said, well, there was a point where he even admitted that, yes, as a country, there are challenges. But yes, though, you want to vary what he said and then place a different interpretation on it.
You know what? You're here to do your job. I'm here to do mine. So the Ghanaian,
so my job is to what?
The Ghanaian people will make the judgment themselves. There is the other issue of the cancellation of some papers in the just ended BEC. I have always wondered why we are so...
You said there is?
The cancellation of results
in
BEC.
Okay.
I have always wondered... Kwesi, you're interesting. I have always wondered why there's so much focus and attention on the students who are said to have misconducted themselves and not on those who help in facilitating that. Because to the best of my knowledge, when we say that children came into the examination hall with foreign material, these children are searched before they get there, right?
I mean, is that me? This is your logic. Are you suggesting that?
No. I'm just asking a question.
Are you suggesting that? If okay, you land.
There is somebody who is supposed to search the children and ensure that they're not found with any foreign material, are we also ensuring that they're doing their jobs well?
So the fact that
I have witnessed somebody walking into an examination room and asking, who is so and so, and hands over a phone to the person. I have seen invigilators who themselves help students. And that's why I'm asking you, what is being done also to ensure that those people are really punished and examples set of them?
Yeah, I get where you are coming from. But I mean, I'm not sure the logic is also that because the police fail to prevent the commission of a crime, when somebody commits a crime, that person should not face the law.
That's not what I'm saying.
That's not the logic. Okay,
but that's not what I'm saying.
That's fair, because I mean, how you started, that's how...
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that the focus has always been on the kids, but not the old people or the invigilators who sometimes facilitate their activities of more practice.
I don't speak for WAEC, but of course, largely because we work with them and the students are students, there is some level of responsibility and some level of action when we have to take in regards to these matters. Of course, our view is that in any arrangement, particularly in examination where you have human interface, obviously there are some of these more practices, issues of leakages and other things that you may hear. And of course, there are some that genuinely your responses or interventions may not be able to resolve them. For instance, let me bring it to a very broader perspective. We have laws in this country, we have the police, we have the army, we have the security agencies, there is Commission of Crime. But how you measure our commitment in addressing some of these challenges is the interventions that we brought through, again, the Minister for Education, the minister that you just you just disagreed with and passionately disagreed with. So what we have done in order to curb some of these things is the introduction of serialization. Serialization of, or serializing the questions that students are supposed to write. And so if you recall, in last year's BEC, you never heard any instance of leakage. But of course, there could also be more practice. More practices, for instance, when a student have succeeded in taking a phone in. You are unable to say that the fact that such student was unnoticed, such students might not be, go through, what do you call it, the proper sanctions. So yes, for us as the Ministry of Education, we've brought some level of interventions with regards to serializing questions to make sure that we sanitize the examination space. But of course, in any human interface, you may get issues of malpractice, you may get issues of leakages, and when it happens, WAEC has its own modus and mechanisms of addressing it.
So what happens?
But ultimately, ultimately, we want to bring a system where that system will curb this thing once and for all. And it starts with serialization. At some point, the Minister for Education has introduced the conversation about the e-testing. And that is all avenues and opportunities that we are also exploring to make sure that we're able to deal with some of these challenges. But of course, there has been instances of where WAEC has prosecuted officials and some individuals that has been, because if you look at the whole chain.
There's a chain, yes.
The chain is not necessarily about WAEC. WAEC also even relies on external sources. Sometimes relies on the Ghana Education Service staff, relies on police. There is a bit of transportation arrangement, logistics involved, stores keeping and other things. At every level, there could be a compromise. But of course, when you introduce system, for instance, this realization, you have about 10 different sets of questions. So you enter the exams hall, an examination which is supposed to be answered by, let's say, 100 students. In that hall, you have about 10 different sets of questions. In that case, if you are a student, there will not even be any incentive or motivation to say that you are going to chase for lead questions or whatever. Because at the end, the questions that you might get might not necessarily be what probably you meet in the exams. So these are all some of the innovative responses that you put to address some of these things ultimately. But of course, you may still have issues of more practice, which may not necessarily be a leakage. More practice, you are not supposed to enter with a phone. You are not supposed to copy somebody's work. How do you prevent somebody necessarily from not copying somebody's work, especially if the person just tends? Definitely the person has committed an offense, and the rules that
by just turning?
No, I'm just hypothetically making an assumption. For instance, you are not supposed to tend to look at somebody's work. If you do that and you are caught, WAEC may want to investigate that you're breaking their examination rules. And in that case, little can be done to save you, especially from the Ministry of Education. Okay.
So these 73 candidates who've had the entire results cancelled, what is the opportunity for them, if any exists, to reset the BEC, or do they have an opportunity to appeal and say, I didn't cheat, and want to prove their innocence? Because what I know is that these investigations are not done necessarily by involving the students or the pupils.
It may not necessarily be so, because if you look at WAEC rules, of course, I believe WAEC may be able to give us the extensive details. But if you look at WAEC rules, a lot of times when students are found culpable of breaching the rules of engagement when it comes to the examination, well, mostly they are supposed to write their statement with more or less a right to fair hearing.
Right.
And sometimes even they attach, if for instance there is a foreign material as an evidence to support whatever statement that they've written. So most of the times the decisions is based there. It's not necessarily as though it's a unilateral decision, because there is a ruling on it, a ruling in WAEC, where the court was very clear that before you are supposed to punish somebody for such an offense, such person must be heard. Yes. So that arrangement exists for such.
Right. Kwesi, we've had you here a couple of times. On one of those occasions, we discussed how the new system allows for students to apply for which schools they would like to be placed to. But there are some new guidelines and information on STEM schools, right?
Yeah.
So what's there to let us know?
Yeah, it's part of all the plans by the Ministry of Education, led by Dr. Yaseduchum, to realign our education, especially to have some sort of positive output with regards to transforming our socio-economic or achieving the socio-economic transformation. Largely, if you look at this 21st century, it's not necessarily, education is not necessarily centered on reading and writing or memorization. I mean, if you recall, we sat on this platform and applauded the minister for...
and that's why you should, and that's why you shouldn't be upset if we disagree with it.
We're not upset. We're only saying, we're only drawing Ghanaians' attention to the fact that there are also, I mean, good interventions that
which we tell.
Well, okay. I've never disputed that.
Right.
Yes, that it depends on where your priority is. But anyway, Benis. So, Benis, we are on TV.
Okay, so yes, about the STEM education and how young people can access it.
What the Minister for Education has introduced is that in this era of the 21st industrial revolution, we as a nation cannot memorize ourselves out of poverty. Because if you look at education, we've always held that it's pivoted on three main angles. We look at access, quality, and then, of course, relevance. Relevance in the terms that they're having an impact on our socio-economic transformation. So, of course, I mean, the quality component has always been the center and the pivot of all the variables. And so you cannot be educating students who may not necessarily be problem solvers, who are not critical thinkers, who are not assertive, and cannot use the education to address socio-economic challenges or the societal challenges. So in view of that, all over the world, the model that everybody is adapting is a STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, where you train students to be critical thinkers, to be assertive, to be problem solvers. So we have introduced the STEM schools, and not necessarily at the SHS level, but remember that the STEM academies from the basic level will be feeding the STEM schools. And so at the STEM school, we've opened opportunity for career pathways in aviation, artificial intelligence, robotics, 3D imaging, 3D engineering, so that we give students an opportunity at least to explore opportunities within the STEM space, that is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So that is a new direction that we are moving. And so this time around, the 21st century schools, which are freshly, newly built senior high school that your people have not yet highlighted. You have not yet highlighted the STEM schools.
Who said we haven't highlighted?
I've not seen it, especially with the...
You see, don't let us go this way, because I can pull out many.
You've highlighted the Abobosu. We've not seen it, and the energy.
Are you saying, look,
the energy you put in?
No. Don't do this. This platform has many programs. We have myjoyonline.com. We have radio.
We are yet to see many you programs. Running a documentary on Schools of Fame where Abobosu will come in.
But you don't choose.
We don't choose for you. We can't do that. We are not in. No, we are not in editorials. But you see, that we can draw the nation's attention through your platform that there are also good things that has been done, just like the minister did.
Which we share. And Kwesi, I didn't want to do this, and I'm not one to do this, but I think that once you've brought this in again, let me just address this. So we have received some comments. Some of you are saying, so this is from Chris Frimpong. He says, so where's the line from what the minister said? I think you guys have an agenda against the education minister. Chris, did we have an agenda against the education minister when we told the story of how he's sponsoring his constituents? Did we have an agenda against him? Sometimes some of these things, you know, let's just be fair to ourselves as a people, okay? And Felix says, Minister is perfectly right, encourage the children rather than discouraging them. So by telling the government to give them chairs, we discourage them. Anyway, that's left to you, Ellen. So quickly,
you are responding to them more than me.
Quickly in wrapping up,
No, in wrapping up, we've opened opportunity for selection. That is prospective SHS students, those whose BEC results just came in. Anybody who wants to take advantage of the STEM schools can just log on www.stem-ssp.com.gh. There are lists of schools, freshly, newly built SHS, a lot of them with 12 science laboratories, ultramodern, very standard ones, and then explore opportunities in STEM.
That's exciting, and I'm one who is particularly excited about the drive for even vocational training, because it gives you hands-on experience. So that's the TVET. That's also an option that is available.
Yes, about
for
200
you.
of them.
Yes, if you think that is the way you want to go as a young JHS graduate, the opportunities are there and they are vast. So you can quickly get on some hands-on experience, and yes, you will be given a certificate, and even if you want to further your studies, you can do that. So let me just say thank you to Kwesi Kwarteng, P.R.O, Ministry of Education, for joining us this morning here on the AM show.